I'm literally moving boxes into my lake house when 3 cop cars come screaming down the street. The HOA president called 911 while watching me carry my furniture through my front door.
Officers, suspicious individuals are breaking into the Palmer property.
I show my keys, my deed, my ID. I am Theodore Palmer. This was my uncle's house. The cop barely glances at my paperwork.
Well, Mrs. Fitzgerald, good catch. Better safe than sorry.
After they leave, she steps close, the smell of expensive perfume mixed with cheap attitude.
I don't care what papers you have. You don't belong here. Cross me, and I'll destroy you.
Minutes later, this woman is about to learn she just threatened someone who owns way more than one house on this block. What would you do? Because this revenge is absolutely beautiful. Drop your worst HOA nightmare below. Let me back up and tell you how I ended up getting threatened by a woman in tennis whites who thinks she runs the world. 3 months ago, my phone rings at 6 a.m. Uncle Theodore's dead. Heart attack in his sleep, peaceful as you please. Now, Uncle Theo wasn't exactly the warm, fuzzy type. Showed up to family dinners twice a year, talked about municipal bonds, and left before dessert. Guy had all the personality of a tax document. What I didn't know? This quiet, boring man had been playing real estate chess while everyone else was playing checkers. The lawyer's office smelled like expensive leather and other people's money when I walked in for the reading. "Congratulations, Mr. Palmer," he says, sliding a thick folder across his mahogany desk. "You now own Willowbrook Lake Properties, LLC. I'm thinking one lake house, maybe a rusty boat dock. Boy, was I wrong. Willowbrook Lake sits 2 hours north of the city, one of those picture-perfect retirement communities where houses start at $1 million, and the HOA rules are longer than most novels. 12 custom homes scattered around pristine water, private beach access, boat slips that cost more than my annual salary. It's where rich people go to pretend they're outdoorsy while paying someone else to maintain their lawns. Running this little slice of paradise? Brenda Fitzgerald, 58 years old, HOA president for 6 consecutive years, recent widow with way too much time and not enough actual problems to solve. Lives in the corner mansion with the perfectly manicured everything. Lawn, garden, probably her soul. The woman had turned neighborhood watch into a full-time dictatorship. Former bank manager, so she knew how to make people's lives miserable with paperwork. Every violation notice typed in perfect font, every fine calculated to the penny. Here's what I discovered later, digging through Uncle Theo's files that smelled like musty paper and decades of patience. Brenda had been systematically targeting anyone who didn't fit her country club vision. The elderly widow who couldn't afford constant landscaping, fined into selling, the young family with kids who played too loudly, harassed until they moved. Uncle Theo had been documenting everything. Phone calls, letters, photographs of selective enforcement. The man kept records like he was building a federal case, which it turned out he basically was. So there I am, moving day, dressed like a normal human being who actually works for a living. Faded jeans, Syracuse University t-shirt from my college days, baseball cap to keep the October sun out of my eyes. The sound of loons calling across misty morning water should have been peaceful. Instead, it felt like a warning. I hired 2 college kids, Jake and Tommy, to help haul furniture for $20 an hour. Apparently, this was my first mistake. In Brenda's twisted world, legitimate property owners wear pressed khakis and drive luxury SUVs. They certainly don't show up in rental trucks with actual sweat on their foreheads. I'm wrestling my grandmother's antique chest out of the U-Haul. Thing weighs about 200 pounds and has that smooth, worn feel of generations of family history. When I spot movement in the corner mansion, curtains twitching like she's running some kind of neighborhood surveillance operation. The crunch of gravel under my dolly wheels echoes across the quiet street. 20 minutes of this, and she's calling 911 like I'm robbing Fort Knox. After the cops leave, she doesn't apologize, doesn't explain, just stands there with her arms crossed, the smell of expensive perfume not quite covering her cheap attitude. "You should have called ahead," she says. "We have protocols here, standards." Standards. Like there's a proper way to inherit your uncle's house. That's when I knew this woman was going to be a problem. What I didn't know was that Uncle Theo had left me everything I needed to solve it. The next week, I get a package in my mailbox that's thicker than a Stephen King novel. 47 pages of official HOA violation notices printed on letterhead that probably cost more than most people's grocery budget. I'm sitting on Uncle Theo's back deck, coffee getting cold in my hands, reading through this masterpiece of petty bureaucracy. The smell of pine needles and lake water should be relaxing. Instead, I'm looking at $2,847 in fines for violations that supposedly happened before I even knew I owned the place. Improper parking of non-conforming vehicle. My Honda Civic, apparently, is an eyesore compared to the Mercedes and BMWs lining the driveways. Unapproved structural modifications to property. Uncle Theo's garden shed that's been there for 15 years without a single complaint. Failure to submit landscaping plans for approval. The wildflower garden he planted in 2018 that actually improves the property. But here's my favorite. Late payment of HOA dues and assessments. And they're billing me for 3 months of fees that came due while Uncle Theo was literally dead and I was waiting for probate court to sort out the inheritance. The administrative genius of it is breathtaking, plus a $500 administrative fee for processing all these violations at once. Because why fine someone fairly when you can add insult to injury and make it sting? I call the HOA management number. Ring, ring, ring. Finally, some teenager picks up, probably making minimum wage to read scripts. Yeah, you need to pay within 10 days or we escalate to legal action, he says, like he's ordering pizza. Mrs. Fitzgerald handles all enforcement personally. Of course she does. Brenda's turned neighborhood management into her personal kingdom. Instead of writing a check like a good little homeowner, I did what Uncle Theo would have done. I started digging. The file cabinets in his study were organized like a military operation. Every document labeled, dated, cross-referenced. The musty smell of old paper mixed with Uncle Theo's cologne still lingering in the air, like he was guiding me from beyond. What I found in those files made my blood pressure spike. Brenda's been pulling this selective enforcement scam for years. Her tennis buddy Nancy parks an RV in her driveway for 6 months straight. No violation notice. The Hispanic family down the street leaves their garbage cans out 12 hours past pickup. $200 fine and a nastily worded warning. Elderly Mrs. Patterson's sprinkler system breaks, leaving brown spots on her lawn. Emergency assessment for property value degradation that nearly forced her to sell. Uncle Theo documented everything. Photos with timestamps, copies of letters, even audio recordings of HOA meetings where Brenda openly discussed maintaining the character of our community. Code words that would make any civil rights lawyer start calculating billable hours. Here's something Uncle Theo's research taught me that every homeowner needs to know. HOA boards can only fine you for violations that actually exist in your governing documents. Half of Brenda's rules were policies she invented on the spot to target specific people. Uncle Theo had highlighted this in red ink across dozens of pages. Illegal enforcement makes board members personally liable for damages. But buried deeper in his correspondence file, I found the real game changer. Letters from Sarah Kim, HOA specialist attorney with a reputation for destroying corrupt board presidents. Uncle Theo had been quietly building a legal case against Brenda for 3 years. Systematic discrimination, financial mismanagement, abuse of power. He had enough documented evidence to sue her into bankruptcy. He died exactly 2 weeks before filing the lawsuit, leaving me his detailed blueprint for revenge. That Wednesday, Brenda struck again. She discovered my kayak violated some mysterious watercraft registration policy. $300 fine plus immediate removal demanded or face daily penalties. I researched the policy, invented last month and mysteriously only enforced against non-founding families. The woman's patterns were becoming crystal clear. Time for my first real counterattack. I filed a formal challenge and requested all HOA financial records under state law. Every homeowner has this right, but Brenda clearly didn't expect anyone to actually know that. The look on her face when I hand-delivered the certified request was like watching someone realize they'd been caught cheating. Then came the emergency HOA meeting about maintaining community standards. Brenda expected to steamroll me in front of intimidated neighbors. Instead, 3 longtime residents, Bob Martinez, Linda Palmer, and old Frank Sullivan, stood up and voiced support. "This harassment has got to stop," Bob said, his weathered voice cutting through the musty community center air. "We've watched Brenda bully good people out of this neighborhood for years." Brenda's perfect composure cracked like cheap paint in summer heat. That evening, I noticed something beautifully ironic. Brenda's perfectly manicured lawn featured sprinklers running at 2 p.m. on Tuesday, directly violating the town water restrictions she'd personally helped write. The woman was so busy policing everyone else she couldn't follow her own rules. I made sure to document it with photos. When I mentioned her security light was still blinding my kitchen windows, she doubled down with pure spite. The light stays exactly where it is. I need to monitor suspicious activity. Actually, I said calmly, shining lights onto someone else's property without permission constitutes harassment under state law. She glared at me, garden hose dripping water onto her perfect white tennis shoes. Prove it. Challenge accepted. Uncle Theo had taught me the most important lesson. Give people like Brenda enough rope, and they'll hang themselves every single time. 2 weeks later, the real fun begins. I'm checking my mail when I find another official notice, this time about my mailbox. The crisp autumn air carries the scent of dying leaves as I stare at this latest masterpiece of petty tyranny. Apparently, my mailbox is non-conforming and needs immediate replacement. I walk outside and examine the thing. It's identical to every other mailbox on the street. Same black metal post, same brass numbers, same weathered finish from lake humidity. But according to Brenda's latest decree, mine violates some obscure aesthetic standards policy. The replacement cost? $400, plus installation fees, from the only approved vendor, Lakefront Mailbox Solutions. Curious, I do a little digging. Lakefront Mailbox Solutions is owned by one Robert Fitzgerald. Guess whose maiden name that is? Yeah, Brenda's brother-in-law runs the company that just became the mandatory mailbox supplier. The smell of corruption is stronger than the fish rotting on the shoreline after last week's algae bloom. I call the company, pretending to be a new customer. Hi, I need pricing for a standard residential mailbox. That'll be $50 plus $20 for installation, the guy says cheerfully. What about for the Willowbrook Lake community? His tone shifts immediately. Oh, those are special. $400 each installed. HOA requirement. 8 times the normal price for the exact same mailbox. Now I'm starting to understand Uncle Theo's meticulous record-keeping habits. I spend the weekend diving through 5 years of HOA financial records that Brenda finally, reluctantly provided after my lawyer sent a strongly worded letter. The cardboard boxes smell like secrets and old coffee stains, and what I find inside makes my hands shake with rage. $30,000 in questionable consulting fees paid to Fitzgerald Family Services over the past 3 years. Guess who owns that LLC? Our dear HOA president herself. Pool maintenance contracts at triple market rate, awarded to her former bank colleague's company, landscaping services from her book club friend's husband, security services from her cousin's firm. It's like a family reunion funded entirely by homeowner dues. Here's something Uncle Theo had highlighted in red ink that every homeowner should know. When HOA board members profit from vendor contracts, it's called self-dealing, and it's illegal in most states. Every contract Brenda approved that benefited her family just became evidence for removal and personal liability. But there's more. The contracts are all signed without competitive bidding, another violation of standard HOA governance rules. Uncle Theo had documented market rates for every service, proving the systematic overcharging. Tuesday morning, she escalates to psychological warfare. I come home from work to find a notice barring me from the community pool for creating a hostile environment. I haven't even been to the pool once. According to her letter, multiple residents complained about my aggressive behavior and inappropriate language. She's literally fabricating complaints from thin air. The creative writing would be impressive if it wasn't so malicious. I immediately call Bob, Linda, and Frank. Bob, did you file a complaint about me at the pool? Hell no, he laughs, his voice crackling through the phone. I haven't seen you at the pool once. Brenda's completely lost her grip on reality. Same story from Linda and Frank. No complaints, no incidents, no hostile environment, just Brenda's imagination working overtime to justify her escalating harassment campaign. But she made one crucial mistake. Pool companies require written incident reports for banned residents. When I call aquatic maintenance directly, they're genuinely confused. We haven't received any incident reports about you, Mr. Palmer, the manager says slowly. Actually, Mrs. Fitzgerald owes us $12,000 for unauthorized repairs she ordered last spring. The plot thickens like morning fog rolling across the lake. Brenda's been spending HOA money without board approval, probably hoping to bury unauthorized expenses in the general maintenance budget. Wednesday brings the nuclear option, emergency assessment letters to every homeowner. $800 each for urgent infrastructure repairs. The letter is deliberately vague about what exactly needs fixing, but payment is due in 10 days or face property liens. The paper feels expensive between my fingers, like everything else Brenda wastes money on. But this time, she's overplayed her hand spectacularly. I spend the evening calling neighbors. Half are terrified and ready to pay immediately. The other half are finally asking the right questions. What infrastructure needs repair? Linda demands. My plumbing works perfectly. Where's the contractor estimate? Bob wants to know. You don't spend $8,000 without getting multiple quotes. Elderly Frank is particularly upset. Fixed income doesn't stretch to surprise assessments, he mutters. Brenda's response is predictably authoritarian. She schedules another emergency meeting for Friday to address resistance to necessary community improvements. Translation: time for more intimidation tactics and manufactured urgency. What she doesn't know is that Uncle Theo's files just gave me everything I need to turn her little kingdom into a smoking crater. And this Friday, she's about to learn why you should never start a paper war with someone who inherited a filing cabinet full of documented evidence. The taste of victory is already sweet on my tongue, mixed with the cool lake air. The week before Friday's meeting, Brenda launches her most vicious campaign yet. She's going door to door spreading poison like it's fertilizer for her perfect lawn. I'm just concerned about property values, she tells Mrs. Patterson, her voice dripping fake sympathy. That Palmer fellow is planning to flip houses, turn this into some kind of rental community. The lies get more creative each day. By Wednesday, she's telling people I'm secretly working with developers to build low-income housing. The smell of desperation mixed with expensive perfume follows her around the neighborhood like a toxic cloud. But her masterpiece is the petition. Protect our community values, it says in elegant script across the top. What follows is 2 pages of thinly veiled discrimination dressed up as neighborhood standards. We must preserve the character that makes Willowbrook Lake special, it reads. Residents should share our background and understand our traditions. Translation: keep the brown people out. She gets exactly 3 signatures before people start calling me with updates. Marcus, you need to see what Brenda's saying about you, Linda whispers over the phone. She's completely lost her mind. Thursday morning, I wake up to find a private security guard parked outside my house. Black SUV with tinted windows. Guy inside wearing tactical gear like he's protecting the president. The engine idles loudly enough to wake half the neighborhood. Diesel fumes mixing with morning lake mist. I walk over with my coffee, still in my pajamas and slippers. Morning, I say to the guard. Can I help you? Just monitoring the situation, sir, he replies, not making eye contact. What situation would that be? He shifts uncomfortably in his seat. Ma'am said to keep an eye on things. Turns out Brenda's burning through HOA emergency funds to hire round-the-clock surveillance of my property. The guard tells me they're taking photos of everyone who visits, measuring my grass height daily, documenting the exact time my garbage goes out each week. The security company is owned by her cousin Rick, another family business feeding off homeowner dues like parasites. But Thursday afternoon brings her most personal attack yet. I come home from work to find a violation notice taped to Uncle Theo's front door about his native plant garden, his pride and joy that he spent 15 years cultivating with loving care. Unapproved vegetation attracting undesirable wildlife, the notice reads. Immediate removal required or face $200 daily fines until compliance achieved. The garden is full of rare native species that actually increase property values. Uncle Theo worked with the county extension office to create a model sustainable landscape that was featured in the local environmental magazine. But in Brenda's world, anything that doesn't look like a sterile golf course is a weed problem. This is where she crosses the line from harassment to destruction of family legacy. I immediately call Dr. Sarah Kim, the botanist Uncle Theo worked with for years. The sound of her shocked intake of breath when I read the violation notice is all I need to hear. Those plants are completely irreplaceable, she says, her voice tight with anger. Some of them took decades to establish. Destroying that garden would be ecological vandalism of the highest order. That evening, I'm building my counter-strategy when neighbor Tom Bradley knocks on my door. His face is pale, hands shaking as he holds Brenda's latest poison pen letter. She came by an hour ago, he says, voice barely above a whisper. Told me Uncle Theo was crazy, said his family doesn't belong here, asked if I wanted those people living next to my children. The mask isn't just slipping, it's completely gone. Brenda's not even pretending to hide her racism anymore. Tom's a good guy, retired teacher with grandkids who visit every summer. He's never been political, just wants to live quietly by the lake. But Brenda's hate speech has pushed him over the edge. This is wrong, Theodore. My dad fought Nazis in World War II. He'd roll over in his grave if he knew I stayed silent while this woman spreads her poison. Friday's meeting arrives like a funeral nobody wants to attend. The community center smells like stale coffee and mounting dread as residents file in clutching assessment letters. But this time, I've done my homework thoroughly. While Brenda was playing security theater and spreading lies, I was quietly building my coalition. Bob, Linda, Frank, Tom, and now 3 other neighbors who are finally tired of her systematic bullying tactics. Brenda's stationed herself at the head table wearing her Navy power suit and practiced fake smile. She has charts and graphs that look impressive until you realize they're completely meaningless propaganda. We're facing a crisis that threatens our entire community, she announces dramatically. But when she starts lying about county mandates and emergency repairs, my coalition is locked and loaded. What county inspector? Bob demands. I want to see the actual violation notice. Where are the contractor estimates? Linda adds forcefully. The room starts buzzing as neighbors realize their HOA president can't answer basic questions about an $800 assessment. That's when Brenda reveals her real strategy. She points directly at me with undisguised hatred. The real crisis is the hostile element disrupting our peaceful community. Some people don't understand our values. Dead silence. Even her supporters look uncomfortable with the obvious implication. But she's just handed me the opening I've been waiting for. Time to show everyone exactly what Uncle Theo documented about Brenda's real values. That night, I can't sleep. Brenda's racist mask-off moment keeps replaying in my head, mixed with the memory of Uncle Theo's gentle hands tending his garden. The smell of her hatred still seems to linger in my nostrils like smoke from a house fire. I decide to dive deeper into his files, the boxes I haven't fully explored yet. The basement smells like old paper and forgotten secrets, with that musty dampness that comes from being near the lake for decades. Uncle Theo's filing system extends beyond the study, with banker's boxes labeled by year stacked floor to ceiling like a paper fortress. I grab 2019, 2023 and start digging for answers. What I find changes everything I thought I knew about this neighborhood. The first surprise hits me like ice water. Theodore Palmer Holdings doesn't just own my house. The LLC owns 8 of the 12 lakefront properties. Uncle Theo had been quietly acquiring them over the past decade, always through intermediaries, always buying from families Brenda had systematically harassed into selling below market value. The Martinez house when Bob's wife got cancer and they needed quick cash, Uncle Theo bought it through a shell company, then rented it back to them at below market rates so they could stay. The Patterson place when she couldn't afford Brenda's bogus emergency assessments, same protective deal. Uncle Theo was secretly running a witness protection program for Brenda's victims. But that's just the appetizer for this feast of revelations. Buried in a folder marked Management Contracts, I find the main course. Uncle Theo didn't just own most of the houses. He owned Willowbrook Management Services, the company that actually manages the HOA operations. For 6 years, Brenda has been unknowingly working for the man she was trying to destroy. Every rule she enforced, every fine she issued, every dictatorial meeting she held, it all legally required approval from Uncle Theo's property management team. And they were meticulously documenting every illegal thing she did. The papers feel like lightning between my fingers as the full scope hits me. Uncle Theo wasn't some quiet victim getting bullied by a power-drunk HOA president. He was playing 4D chess while she was playing checkers, letting Brenda hang herself with her own rope while building an airtight federal case. The folder labeled Insurance and Utilities delivers the knockout punch that leaves me breathless. Willowbrook Lake HOA has been technically bankrupt for 3 years. Brenda's embezzlement and family kickback schemes drained the community accounts completely, but she covered the deficit by having Uncle Theo's management company quietly pay all the bills. Pool maintenance, road repairs, insurance premiums, even the lake access rights and community beach permits, Uncle Theo was covering everything while Brenda took credit and skimmed money off the top. Without his secret funding, the community would have been condemned by the county health department years ago. Plus, he owned the lake access rights and boat launch that make these properties valuable. Brenda's been queen of a kingdom that belonged to my family the entire time. I find a letter from Uncle Theo's attorney dated exactly 2 weeks before his heart attack. Theodore, the evidence is overwhelming. Brenda Fitzgerald has committed multiple felonies, including embezzlement, civil rights violations, and conspiracy. We can dissolve the HOA entirely, remove her with criminal charges, or let her destroy herself publicly. Your call on timing, TK. Uncle Theo had planned to drop the nuclear option the week after he died. His heart gave out first, but he left me holding all the cards in a winning hand. The legal reality hits me like a tsunami. As majority property owner and HOA management company owner, I don't just live in this neighborhood. I am this neighborhood. Every fine Brenda issued was legally invalid. Every contract she signed was void. Every rule she enforced exceeded her actual authority by light years. She's been playing dictator in a kingdom that belonged to my family all along. But Uncle Theo left me something better than immediate revenge. A handwritten note clipped to the management contracts, his familiar penmanship still clear. Marcus, she'll expose herself completely if you let her. The neighbors deserve to see who she really is before they see justice served. Then clean house properly. Uncle T. Tomorrow, I have enough power to end Brenda's reign in 5 minutes. But Uncle Theo's right. The community needs to see the monster behind the mask before they watch her fall. Monday morning, I'm sitting in attorney Sarah Kim's office, Uncle Theo's files spread across her conference table like evidence at a war crimes tribunal. The smell of fresh coffee mixes with leather-bound law books as she reviews the documents with surgical precision. "Holy shit, Theodore," she whispers, then catches herself. "Sorry, but this is the most comprehensive documentation of HOA corruption I've ever seen." Sarah specializes in dismantling corrupt homeowner associations. She's the lawyer HOA presidents have nightmares about, the one who turns their petty kingdoms into expensive rubble. And she's looking at Uncle Theo's files like Christmas morning wrapped in legal precedent. "Your uncle was building a federal case," she continues, flipping through financial records with growing excitement. "RICO violations, civil rights conspiracy, mail fraud. Brenda's looking at serious prison time if we prosecute. But I don't want Brenda to quietly disappear into a plea bargain. I want public justice, community vindication." Uncle Theo's note was clear. Let everyone see who she really is first. "Sarah, what if we let her call one more emergency meeting, give her enough rope to hang herself completely in front of witnesses?" Her predatory smile could power the city grid. "You want to let her commit more crimes on camera?" "Exactly. She's planning to force me out. Let her try while we document everything." Here's something most homeowners don't know about HOA law that could save you thousands. When board members exceed their legal authority, they become personally liable for all damages and illegal fines. Every fraudulent decision creates personal debt that can't be discharged in bankruptcy. We spend 2 hours crafting the legal trap. Sarah explains that Brenda's authority expired 8 months ago when her term ended without proper re-election. She's been operating as a fraud, making every decision legally void and personally costly. Tuesday brings the physical preparation phase. I install professional-grade security cameras around my property, not cheap hardware store models, but courtroom-quality systems with crystal-clear audio and tamper-proof timestamps, the kind that make lawyers smile and criminals sweat. My neighbor Tom helps me run the concealed wiring, still furious about Brenda's racist house call. The copper wire feels solid and reassuring between our fingers as we work. "Make sure you get good audio pickup," Tom suggests, testing microphone sensitivity. "That woman can't keep her mouth shut when she's angry. Gonna talk herself right into a jail cell." Wednesday evening, I secretly gather my coalition at Bob's kitchen table. The room smells like decades of family dinners and honest conversations, the opposite of Brenda's sterile manipulation. "Here's what Uncle Theo really left me," I explain, spreading property ownership documents across the scratched wooden surface. 8 houses, the lake access rights, and the management company that actually runs this HOA. Linda studies the legal descriptions through her reading glasses, fingers tracing property lines. "You own my house? I've been paying rent to fight Brenda's harassment?" Uncle Theo bought properties to protect families she was targeting. Below market rent so you could stay in your home safely. The revelation hits them like cold lake water. These aren't just neighbors. They're Uncle Theo's protected witnesses in Brenda's systematic abuse case. Frank leans back in his chair, the wood creaking with understanding. "So what's our play?" I detail the strategy Uncle Theo designed. "Let Brenda demand the illegal assessment. When she can't provide documentation, we force a no-confidence vote. That's when I reveal the real ownership structure and her complete lack of authority. Thursday brings media coordination. I contact Channel 7's investigative reporter Jessica Martinez, sending her a preview packet of financial evidence that makes her voice rise with excitement. "This corruption scale is incredible," she says. "Can you guarantee she'll incriminate herself on camera?" Brenda's ego won't let her back down quietly, especially when she thinks she's finally destroying me. Friday morning, I bring in the county tax assessor. Brenda owes $34,000 in unpaid taxes on her consulting kickbacks. The assessor agrees to attend Monday's meeting with official notices and legal authority to seize assets. The psychological warfare phase requires delicate acting. All week, I perform defeat around Brenda. Let her see me loading boxes in the garage, overhear phone calls about maybe it's time to move somewhere more welcoming. Her smug satisfaction radiates across the neighborhood like toxic waste. She believes her intimidation campaign has broken me, that I'm ready to surrender and flee like her previous victims. Perfect. Overconfident predators make the most spectacular mistakes. Sunday night, I have Uncle Theo's original property surveys professionally framed, not for decoration, but for the perfect revelation moment when Brenda thinks she's achieved total victory. Every piece is positioned, every witness is ready, every camera is recording. Tomorrow, Brenda's going to try destroying me in front of the entire community she's terrorized for years. Instead, she's about to destroy herself more completely than any revenge I could engineer. The trap smells like justice, and it's about to snap shut. Saturday morning, I'm enjoying coffee on Uncle Theo's deck when I see Brenda creeping around my property line with a professional camera. She's trying to be sneaky, but the woman moves with all the stealth of a freight train in designer heels. My security system catches everything in perfect high definition as she steps onto my property to photograph the survey documents I accidentally left visible on the porch table. The papers show Uncle Theo's holdings, but not the full scope, just enough bait to make her think she's discovered something valuable. 20 minutes later, she's tearing Uncle Theo's Memorial Garden flag while trying to get a better camera angle. The flag was a gift from the County Environmental Society recognizing his conservation work. Watching her destroy it on camera makes my blood boil, but it also seals her legal fate. Felony trespassing, destruction of property, theft of documents. My cameras capture it all with courtroom-quality timestamps. Sunday brings her masterstroke of stupidity. The emergency community meeting, removal of problem resident notice hand-delivered to every house. The official letterhead screams authority she doesn't legally possess. This emergency session will address the immediate removal of Theodore Palmer from Willowbrook Lake Properties, her manifesto declares, demanding all homeowners attend or face $500 fines for non-participation. She's threatening to vote me out of property I own, using powers that expired 8 months ago while extorting neighbors into compliance. Sarah Kim's response is immediate. Federal crimes now, mail fraud, extortion, conspiracy. Monday morning, I discover the real scope of Brenda's corruption network while reviewing Uncle Theo's vendor files. It's not just her brother-in-law's mailbox company and cousin's security firm. Her entire extended family has been feeding off HOA contracts for years. Pool chemicals from her nephew's supply company, marked up 300%. Landscaping from her book club friend's husband, double the market rate. Legal services from her former bank colleague's law firm, bills that make no sense for a 12-house community. The total kickback scheme over 5 years, $150,000 in stolen homeowner dues. Uncle Theo documented every inflated invoice, every family connection, every fraudulent contract. But Monday afternoon brings the real game changer. While researching property records, I stumble across something that makes my hands shake. Brenda's been secretly working with Grandview Development Corporation on a plan to buy out the entire lakefront block. The development company's proposal, buried in her personal files, outlines converting our 12 homes into a luxury resort complex. Brenda's cut for community liaison services? $200,000 plus an ongoing consulting contract. This explains her desperate campaign to force out problem residents like Uncle Theo and me. She's been systematically eliminating anyone who might resist selling to developers. The harassment, the fines, the intimidation, it's all been part of a long-term plan to cash out the neighborhood. Tuesday brings Brenda's pre-meeting intimidation campaign into high gear. She stations security guards outside my house, 2 shifts covering 24 hours. They take photos of everyone who visits, measure my grass with rulers, document my garbage can placement times. The guards don't realize they're committing harassment under state law, or that their employer owes the HOA $12,000 for unauthorized services. Brenda's burning through community emergency funds to finance her personal vendetta. Wednesday evening, I file criminal complaints against Brenda with the district attorney's office, providing security footage of her trespassing and property destruction. But I ask them to delay the arrest warrant until after Monday's meeting. Let her commit more crimes in front of witnesses, I explained to the prosecutor. Complete the conspiracy case before we take her down. Thursday brings anonymous flyers about my criminal background, completely fabricated stories about FBI investigations and financial fraud. Brenda's distributed them to every mailbox, not realizing that false accusations in writing constitute criminal libel. The paper trail of her lies is growing longer every day, each document another felony charge waiting to be filed. Friday morning, she deploys her nuclear option. Threats of special assessments against any homeowner who doesn't vote to remove me. Linda calls, voice shaking. Brenda says my dues will triple if I support you. Extortion, conspiracy, abusive process. The woman's racking up federal charges like frequent flyer miles. But Friday afternoon brings my favorite discovery. While installing additional security cameras, I notice Brenda practicing her victory speech in her backyard. She's literally rehearsing how she'll demand my immediate departure after tomorrow's vote. The woman has no idea she's about to face the most humiliating defeat in HOA history. She thinks she's won this war before the final battle even begins. Tomorrow, Brenda Fitzgerald is going to learn the hardest lesson of her privileged life. Never underestimate a quiet man with good records and better lawyers. Saturday morning, Brenda makes her biggest mistake yet. She contacts Channel 7 first, trying to control the narrative before I can tell my side. The smell of desperation is stronger than the algae blooming in the lake. I'm calling about a community crisis, she tells reporter Jessica Martinez, not knowing Jessica already has my evidence packet. We have an outside agitator destroying our peaceful neighborhood with frivolous lawsuits and harassment. Jessica plays along beautifully, gathering quotes while Brenda digs her own grave. He's been threatening elderly residents, filing false complaints, trying to bankrupt our HOA with legal fees. We're forced to take action to protect our community. Every word is being recorded. Every lie is becoming evidence for the defamation lawsuit Sarah Kim is already drafting. But Brenda's real nuclear option comes Saturday afternoon, the final notice demanding I vacate in 48 hours or face sheriff's eviction. The document is typed on fake legal letterhead with completely fictional court case numbers and fraudulent judicial orders. By authority of the Willowbrook Lake Homeowner Association and County Housing Authority, it reads, Marcus Palmer is hereby ordered to vacate the premises immediately or face forcible removal and $10,000 daily penalties. The woman is literally trying to steal my house using fabricated legal documents. Sarah Kim's response is swift and brutal. Mail fraud, impersonating legal authority, theft by deception. She's looking at 20 years minimum. Sunday brings the alliance revelation that changes everything. While doing final research on Brenda's developer connections, I discover she's been getting regular payments from Grandview Development, $5,000 monthly consulting fees for the past 2 years. The conspiracy is deeper than I imagined. Brenda hasn't just been harassing neighbors for personal power. She's been systematically clearing the neighborhood for a corporate takeover, getting paid to destroy our community from the inside. Uncle Theo's files show he'd discovered this too. His final notes include photos of Brenda meeting with Grandview executives, copies of her consulting contracts, even recorded phone calls where she discusses removing resistance to the redevelopment project. My uncle died before he could expose her, but he left me everything I need to finish what he started. Sunday evening brings pre-meeting intimidation that crosses every legal line. Brenda deploys security guards to escort me from the property if I show up Monday. She's distributed my photo to the guards with instructions to treat me as a trespassing threat. The guards don't know they're being hired to commit kidnapping. Brenda's so desperate to prevent my attendance, she's recruiting accomplices for federal crimes. Monday morning, I secretly file final criminal complaints with the FBI's white-collar crime division. The developer conspiracy, the mail fraud, the civil rights violations. It's all federal jurisdiction now. But I ask them to wait until after the meeting for maximum impact. Let her commit conspiracy and intimidation in front of media witnesses, I explained to Agent Rodriguez. complete the case before we arrest her. Monday afternoon brings the technical setup that will capture everything. Jessica Martinez arrives with her camera crew, positioning equipment for perfect documentation of Brenda's final meltdown. The county tax assessor coordinates arrival timing for maximum drama. She'll serve Brenda with $34,000 in tax liens right in front of the cameras. My coalition gathers for final preparation. Bob, Linda, Frank, Tom, and 4 other neighbors now know the truth about Uncle Theo's ownership and Brenda's developer conspiracy. "She's been selling us out for years," Linda says, her voice shaking with rage, "taking money to destroy our homes." Monday evening, I notice Brenda's final preparations through her kitchen window. She's practicing her presentation one more time, rehearsing how she'll demand my immediate removal and threaten anyone who opposes her. The woman has no idea that tomorrow's meeting isn't her coronation, it's her public execution. She thinks she's finally going to eliminate the last obstacle to her developer payday. Instead, she's about to face justice for 6 years of theft, harassment, and conspiracy. The FBI, the media, and the entire community will watch her empire collapse in real time. I can already taste the satisfaction, sweet as lake water on a perfect morning. Tomorrow, Brenda Fitzgerald learns that karma isn't just a concept. It's a force of nature with a very long memory. Monday evening arrives with the kind of tension that makes your skin crawl. The community center is packed beyond capacity. Residents, media crews, county officials, and a few faces I don't recognize who smell like federal agents. Brenda enters like she's walking into her own coronation, wearing a power suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. She sets up at the head table with professional charts, a laptop, and a gavel that she bangs like Thor's hammer. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announces, voice trembling with fake emotion, "tonight we address the crisis threatening our community's very survival." The smell of her desperation mixes with coffee and nervous sweat as she launches into her prepared presentation. Charts showing fabricated property damage, fake financial projections, completely fictional legal requirements. It's a masterclass in confident lying. Marcus Palmer has systematically harassed residents, filed frivolous lawsuits, and damaged property values through his hostile behavior, she declares, pointing directly at me. Tonight, we vote for his immediate removal from Willowbrook Lake. I'm sitting quietly in the back row, letting her dig the hole deeper with every word. The TV cameras are rolling, capturing every lie for posterity. That's when the first surprise enters stage left. County Tax Assessor Maria Santos stands up from her seat near the door. "Before any votes are taken, I need to address Mrs. Fitzgerald's tax compliance issues." Brenda's face goes white as fresh snow. "I'm sorry, what?" "You owe $34,000 in back taxes and penalties on unreported consulting income," Maria announces, her voice carrying the authority of someone who seizes property for a living. "Plus interest accruing daily." The room erupts in murmurs. "Consulting income? What consulting income?" Brenda's been telling everyone she volunteers her time out of community spirit. But I'm not done yet. Time for the main event. I stand up slowly, Uncle Theo's leather portfolio in my hands. "Before we discuss my removal, I'd like to clarify something about property ownership here." My voice cuts through the noise like a knife through butter. The room goes dead silent. Brenda's been operating under some misconceptions about who actually owns what in this neighborhood. I unfold Uncle Theo's original property surveys, professionally mounted for maximum visual impact. These documents show that Theodore Palmer Holdings, which I inherited, owns 8 of the 12 homes around this lake. Nice. Including the lake access rights, the boat launch, and the private beach. The gasp from the audience is audible over the lake wind outside. Brenda's mouth opens and closes like a fish on dry land. "But that's not the best part," I continue, opening the folder labeled Management Services. Uncle Theo also owned Willowbrook Management Services, the company that actually runs this HOA. The room explodes, neighbors talking over each other, reporters scribbling frantically, camera flashes going off like lightning. Brenda grabs her gavel and pounds it desperately. "This is impossible," she screams. "I've been HOA president for 6 years. "Actually," I say calmly, "you've been working for my family for 6 years, and according to our forensic accountant's report," I nod to Sarah Kim, who steps forward with boxes of evidence. "You've embezzled $88,000 in homeowner dues through kickback schemes with family businesses," Sarah announces. "Every contract you approved that benefited your relatives was illegal self-dealing." The evidence starts flowing like an avalanche. Security footage of Brenda trespassing on my property, audio recordings of her racist threats, financial records showing the systematic theft, photos of her destroying Uncle Theo's memorial flag. That's when Jessica Martinez steps forward with her microphone. Mrs. Fitzgerald, how do you respond to charges that you've been taking $5,000 monthly payments from Grandview Development to clear residents for a luxury resort project? Brenda's psychological break is spectacular. This is a conspiracy, she shrieks, her perfect composure completely shattered. You can't do this to me. I'm in charge here. Ma'am, comes a calm voice from the back of the room. FBI agent Rodriguez approaches with handcuffs glinting under the fluorescent lights. Brenda Fitzgerald, you're under arrest for mail fraud, conspiracy, and civil rights violations. The Miranda rights echo through the community center as cameras capture every moment. Brenda's perp walk through the crowd of neighbors she's terrorized for years is the most beautiful sight I've ever seen. As the handcuffs click shut, I deliver my mic drop moment. Uncle Theo always said patience is a virtue. Tonight, justice isn't just served, it's catered. The taste of victory is sweeter than I ever imagined, mixed with the cool lake air and the promise of a community finally free from tyranny. 6 months later, Willowbrook Lake looks like a completely different place. The smell of fear has been replaced by the scent of barbecue smoke from neighborhood gatherings and the sound of children playing without someone calling the cops. Brenda took a plea deal, 18 months in minimum security, full restitution of $127,000, and permanent banishment from any HOA involvement. She sold her mansion to pay legal fees and moved to Florida, where she can terrorize retirement communities to her heart's content. The transformation started immediately. First thing I did was dissolve Brenda's corrupt HOA structure and form a new one with transparent governance. Every financial record is available online. Every board meeting is recorded and posted. No more secret decisions or mysterious assessments. The new board includes Bob Martinez as president, Linda Palmer as treasurer, and Frank Sullivan as secretary. People who actually live here and care about neighbors instead of power trips. Our monthly meetings feel more like family dinners than corporate boardrooms. All those illegal fines Brenda issued, refunded with interest. The total came to $23,000 returned to residents who'd been systematically robbed. Mrs. Patterson cried when she got her check. $3,400 that lets her stay in the home she loves instead of being forced out by fabricated violations. But the real healing comes from the Theodore Palmer Memorial Community Fund we established. The scholarship program sends 2 local kids to college every year, focusing on environmental science and community service. This fall, we're awarding our first grants to Maria Santos, the tax assessor's daughter, and Tommy Williams, one of the kids who helped me move in that first day. The annual award ceremony happens every October at the lakefront pavilion we built, where Brenda's security cameras used to spy on everyone. Uncle Theo would love seeing his legacy create opportunity instead of fear. Property values have actually increased since we eliminated the toxic management. Turns out people pay more to live somewhere they won't be harassed for existing. Who knew? I kept Uncle Theo's house as my weekend retreat, finally understanding why he loved this place so much. The morning mist rising off the lake, the sound of loons calling across the water, the peace that comes from knowing your neighbors actually like you. It's healing in ways I didn't expect. The garden Brenda tried to destroy is now a centerpiece of our conservation efforts. Dr. Sarah Kim helped us expand it into a community education space where kids learn about native plants and sustainable living. The irony is perfect. Brenda's hatred created something beautiful. Here's what I learned from Uncle Theo's strategy that every homeowner facing HOA bullies should remember. Document everything, know your legal rights, and never let petty tyrants think they can intimidate you into silence. Most HOA corruption collapses when exposed to sunlight and proper legal pressure. Also, always request financial records. It's your right as a member. If they refuse or stall, that's usually a sign they're hiding theft. Get a lawyer who specializes in HOA law, not some general practice attorney who doesn't know the specific regulations. The environmental initiative became our crown jewel. We installed solar panels on the community center, created composting programs, and turned the lakefront into a model for sustainable development. The county uses us as an example of how communities can thrive when residents work together instead of tearing each other down. Our annual Lake Day Festival draws families from 3 counties now. Local food trucks, live bluegrass music, boat races for kids, and a beer tent that would make Uncle Theo smile. It's everything Brenda's uptight vision never allowed. Real community built on inclusion instead of exclusion. The best moment comes every year when I give the keynote speech from the same spot where Brenda used to threaten people. This year's theme: how one quiet man's records changed everything. And last week I got a letter from a homeowner in Michigan facing similar HOA harassment. She'd seen the news coverage and wanted advice. I sent her copies of Uncle Theo's documentation system and Sarah Kim's contact information. That's the real victory. Knowing this story gives other people the tools to fight back against petty tyrants in their own neighborhoods. As I sit on Uncle Theo's deck this morning, watching sunrise paint the lake gold, I can almost hear his voice. Justice delayed isn't justice denied. Sometimes it's justice perfected.